All right, so these are the teapots I am going to be working on. I'm gonna be doing different types of lids, different types of handles for you guys to kind of encompass whatever your design is. This is the one I started at senior. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to work on this lidded form to kind of show you guys how you could rest something inside. I only got up to here at Memorial the other day, so I'm gonna build the rest of it. And I'm probably gonna build the rest of the body here too today, just so you can kind of see if you have something a little bit more slanted or if you have something really rounded, how you're going to want to build that. You're also gonna wanna make sure that everything is super smooth inside. That's very, very important. So, you know, just keep that in mind. So here is my teapot from yesterday. I went in and I made this little edge right here, and this is gonna be for my lid to sit on. I know in my sketch it's like really high and really tall. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit shorter, and I'm pretty much gonna start with a pinch pot. Before I do so, I am going to make sure I go in and smooth this up quite a bit. And I'm also going to show you guys how you could get an inset lid on these as well. But this is going to give you a really nice guide for where you want your lid to rest. So I'm going to go in with about this much, maybe a little less, And I'm gonna start to make a little pinch pot form. And I'll show you guys two different ways that you could work with this form. So one is gonna be more of a dome lid. That's what they're called because they look more like a dome. So imagine I'm gonna be spacing this out, so try to think about the size you want when you're going to be spacing this. So I'm just gonna start with a little mini pinch pot. You guys can also start with a little coil pot if you want to as well, but I think that this is gonna give me the best results. And I really wanna make sure that this is pretty thin and pretty even, which might take a little while to really put together. Because you'll notice as you make your pinch pot, it's gonna crack, it might get a little bit uneven here and there, but we'll make sure that we go ahead in and we fill that. So it'll be all nice, all even. I'm gonna also smooth from the center. And the whole idea is to get the edge of your pinch pot to line up, to line up and set inside here, all right? I think that that's a little bit too big, so I am going to adjust it after I smooth my pinch pot. And I'm almost kind of pinching it inward. So that that'll fit in there nicely. Now this is not even, so I want to go in with some fresh clay, little coil pieces, and just smooth that in. This is going to be really important because, you know, you're going to see this piece right here and you want to make sure that everything's super smooth, really paying attention to your craftsmanship. That'll be really, really important. And now not only do we want this to just kind of rest in there, we're also going to want to make a little area that will rest into the center as well. And I'm going to show you guys two different ways you could do this. So we're going to do a dome lid and then we're going to do an inset lid. And those are two pretty good options once you build a top like this. I'm gonna do one later on today where I'm actually cutting out a seamless lid from a more like circular, not circular, sphere form. So work on this. You could add in a little bit of extra clay as you need to really smooth it up, get it nice and even. And you'll also want to think about what kind of topper you want to put on your lid. You know, it could be something simple, it could be something a little bit more elaborate. I've had people do like little mini sculptures on the top. You could make it more simplistic and do like a bar or you know, some type of little doodad on top, more traditional. So let's see how this places in now. Now remember that the clay is going to shrink. And even if you're able to manipulate something to fit right now and it seems to fit, it's going to change a little bit. So make sure it really, really fits. And it's not something that you're gonna have to move. I'm actually gonna go in and push this out a little bit. I think that's gonna be easier than changing my form so much. When we go in and burnish these, a lot of these finger marks are going to disappear. You will want to be careful when burnishing because we will have lots of little fragile pieces. But that's pretty much the basics of having a cap lid. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna work, you know, with this a little bit more, but having it set in there, it's gonna hold it pretty nicely, okay? So that would be my little cap lid. The next lid you could create is an inset lid. And that's something that's actually gonna start here and like dip down in your pot. And that's gonna be a pinch pot as well. Just kind of like in the reverse way, and we're gonna pinch it out so that it flares and hits this edge. So with this opening, these are the two type of main lids that people go in and create. So I'm gonna start with a pinch pot again, but because I want it to fit into here, I'm actually going to make it like pretty deep when I go ahead and I put my thumb into it because I want it to really set in there to hold the lid on. So it could be a little bit more pointy and it could be kind of thin. I'm almost taking the clay after I have the pinch pot made and then smoothing it to the top. And this is a really nice lid. It usually has a really good grip. A little bit more than the dome lid, but I really like doing the dome lids as well. And the other two types of lids, one is a cutout lid and one is actually like an insert lid. But today, get your body made, absolutely. You're probably gonna notice it's a little messy up top, but that's okay. We'll go in, we'll pinch it out, we could trim it. And the idea of this is we want this to set in here and be seamless. It's not seamless now. You might have to play around with it a little bit in order to get a shape that's going to fit in nicely. That might mean smoothing this down a little bit more. And I'm gonna focus on the top last because the fit is the most important. So you wanna make sure that we have a really nice fit. And for this one, you're gonna wanna make a taller topper. All right, let's see how that fits now. All right, that's pretty good, but it's pretty ugly. So I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna make the sides a little bit nicer looking. And you don't have to keep them like perfectly straight. You can, make them a little bit wavy if you want to. But after you have the center part, you really want to make sure that the edges are pressed down so that when they go in, they rest nicely against the part that's dipped in. So I'm really going around and pushing this out. I'm definitely gonna have to trim this. And there's so many different types of lids. So, like I said, I'm gonna do the other two later, and I will post them at the end of the day. All right, I'm gonna go in with a tool and trim this a little bit. Because I know I have enough clay to pinch it out if I need to. And you could have it set exactly inside, like a nice clean set. You could also, bring it up a little bit if you want to as well. Just make sure, you're really focusing on smoothing, no matter what shape you're turning it into. That is like one of the key things of the I Ching pots. See how that sits in. Actually, that's pretty good. Okay, I like that. I just want to fill the center a little bit more. I feel like it did get a little too thin. So I'm just going to take a little extra clay, make sure I'm supporting it, and I'm going to fill up the middle. Now, on both of these forms, you're going to want to create some type of little knob on the top to be able to lift it up, especially with this one right here because it is so shallow in how it fits in. I'll probably go in and touch these up a little bit, you know, really get them to fit very, very smoothly. But that's an inset lid, and this one right here would be more of your cap lid. And it gives it like such a different characteristic going from, you know, your little dome to your little inset right here. All right. So making different things to put on your toppers, like to decorate them, make them look a little bit fancy. A lot of people will go in and do like the traditional little, you know, teapot ball like that. I would encourage you to be a little bit more creative than putting something like that in, but it is up to you. I think I'm gonna try to do almost like a little loop. And remember, you guys are going to want to slip and score these. So that would be like my top for here. I feel like that just adds something to it and makes it much more interesting than just having, you know, the traditional little ball piece up there. So I'm actually just gonna smooth this in because this clay is so squishy. Normally you would wanna really slip and score this on. You might need to go in with like a paintbrush and a little bit of water or a little bit of vinegar to really smooth this. And you want to try to get it, you know, as even and as nice as you can. And maybe play around with a few different toppers, because everything, you know, on your teapot really changes the shape. So that made a totally different design. This is still a little bit uneven. I think I might play with it though. Sometimes when you have like a pot that's a little uneven, especially hand built, I will work into it like the handle and the spout to really go with the flow of the teapot. But just make sure everything's nice and sturdy. Going in with this topper, which I need to smooth out quite a bit. I definitely want something a little taller, but I also don't want it to be too tall because I want to keep it flush with the rest of it. I'm gonna roll out like a little Tootsie Roll piece like this. Kind of knock it on the table. And I'm gonna do this on both sides so that I can attach one side and use one side as a decorative piece. And I'm just gonna be smoothing this towards the bottom where I want to attach it to. And I'm gonna be decorating the lid, just kind of pulling it down. I like to do a lot what I almost call like a little button lid, just because it's a little circle, and then go in and use my hand to not make it quite a pinch pot, but make like a little hole in the center, kind of like that. And it almost looks like a little button. Now, in order to attach this one, you're definitely going to want to slip and score because the area that you're attaching it to, you're not going to really be able to get down there and smooth. It's pretty thin, so I'm gonna thin out the bottom too to make sure that I could fit it. So I'm just kind of pinching this, and then I'm gonna cut it. I might need to pinch a little bit more, but I definitely want to taper it, but still keep it a little bit larger at the top. I'm gonna tap that down, and let's see how that looks. I think it might be a little too big. Let's see. Maybe I will squish it down a little bit more. And you know what, guys? This is all about trial and error, playing around with different shapes. I think I'm gonna go in and actually pinch this out a little bit more. And kind of rest it in like that. Let's see. Yeah, I think I kind of like it like that. This needs work, so I'm not going to attach it yet. But what you would do is slip and score these both together, rest it in there, make sure it fits really well, and then that would be your little inset lid. You could make this smaller if you want. You can cut it down, you can thin it out even a little bit more. It is really up to you. You guys can get pretty creative with these. And take your time. I know I'm doing these like pretty quick, so you could tell they're not perfect by any means. You know what, I think I do like that smaller a little bit. And then I would just go pick it up. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm gonna put these two to the side. I might even work on like different little handles for this one after I pinch it out. So spouts. Spouts, 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 spouts. I would say this is the main thing that people struggle with when working on a teapot. So for this one, I'm going to do a pretty short spout. And I think I am gonna actually stick with my dome lid. I just wanted to show you guys like the inset lid as well, but that wasn't my original design, so I wanna make sure I do stick with that because I like it. I think it's cute. When you're creating a teapot, if you put a spout all the way down here, or if you put it here, the liquid is only gonna be able to be filled up until that spout. If you create something more down here and wanna like flare it up, that's fine. That won't, that'll be fine. You could still fill it. Make sure your teapot is, as smooth as you want it to be. As smooth as you could get it just by doing, smoothing with your hand or smoothing with a rib tool before we go ahead and attach that. I don't think I'm gonna play by those rules just because I wanna show you guys how to do a spout. Now, spouts are not that difficult. Some people are like, I don't know how to make a spout. There's a few different ways that you could make them. I'm going to show you guys a way where you're making almost like a little, I guess trapezoid type thing. But I'm going to flatten out the clay, get a pretty thin piece. And the size that you're going to cut out just depends on the size of your spout. All right. I'm going to use my rib tool to cut this. And all I want to do is cut the top piece, and then I'm going to cut this on 2 diagonals that are approximately the same, and I'm going to roll it up to make my spout. Now, you're not going to just want to roll up clay regularly. We are going to be going in and forming it a little differently. All right, so this is what I'm going to use for my spout. I am definitely not going to need all of this because it is a shorter spout, but I want to go in first and I want to pinch it pretty thin around all the edges. Make sure it's nice and smooth inside. And I'm going to kind of slowly roll the clay and see what I'm working with. All right, I know I definitely want to pinch this a little bit more because it is a little bit thick. I'm also going to trim this a little bit because it's definitely too long. All right, so I'm going to go in again and I'm going to turn this in. All right, and you could see, you know, that is a lot thinner than the other one. And then I'm just going to start smoothing this together. Now, this all just looks like a straight, you know, little piece right now. So we are going to want to go in and modify it to fit our teapot and go with our design. I'm going to leave the edges open a little bit, and I'm going to go in with my finger and I kind of want to push down a little bit so that I get like a little almost bubble towards the bottom. That's going to help the tea to go out of the spout. You guys can, of course, play around with this. I'm probably going to add a little bit more clay in, really even it out. You guys could also go in and like cut these on a diagonal. Sometimes that's done as well. So I'm going to start to line this up and see where is this going to fit best on my teapot. I mean, I could put it there. I could flare these out a little bit more, and I could attach it there. I feel like maybe down a little bit is better. Maybe to the side. So kind of play around with where you want to put your spout, assess your teapot, see, you know, where you think it'll work best. Maybe I like that side better, and then I'll do the handle here. Nah, I like it over here. All right, so this is really key. Making your hole for the liquid to flow through. What I like to do is mark it up. So see where the bottom of my teapot spout is going to be and where the top is going to be. So I have these little marks on here, and right in the center of those, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make a small hole. You don't want it to be really large, because if you have a large hole and a smaller spout, too much tea is gonna come out at once and you're gonna get it like, it's gonna do like a little guzzly thing. So I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna turn this. I have my one finger inside, and I'm gonna wanna make sure that this hole is pretty smooth. So I'm going in and I'm smoothing on the inside, and I'm smoothing on the outside. So it's a pretty good size. Go in, smooth your spout up a lot. If you need extra clay, if you need water and a paintbrush after you attach it, totally fine. And the reason you have these little flared out pieces is so you could attach it however you feel fit, and you could really adjust these. I'm gonna cut some of it off before I go ahead and actually attach it on. But this should line up with this right in the middle. All right, I think I kind of like that. So what you would want to do is slip and score it on. You know, slip is, you know, dry clay with a little bit of water. I'm just gonna use a little paintbrush, and you don't want to put a lot of slip, just a little bit, because we are gonna smooth this in as well. Make some little score marks on here. And I'm gonna put that just by the bottom because I am gonna cut off some of these little wings here. I do want some of it there so I could smooth it, but not all of it. It's too much. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna line it up. You wanna make sure the entire spout encompasses it. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna smooth it. But you want to be careful. You want to make sure that you leave like this little bit of bulbousness under here. And just like with anything, you could add more clay. You want to make sure that this is really sealed though. You could play around with this afterwards too. You could shape it a little bit differently. I'm gonna go in with just like a little bit of a coil, or maybe just a little piece of clay, and fill this section in here. So I have this spout on here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my lid on. So I think that those kind of go together, you know, pretty cute. Kind of liking that. And we're gonna go in and we're gonna do the handle. So let me see where we are on time. All right, we'll do the handle real quick. In this one, I'm gonna show you guys how to do a coil handle. There's a few different types of handles you could do, but for this one, I think a coil handle is going to fit best. Make sure you're really compressing your clay. You're gonna want a nice smooth coil. And with this coil, you're gonna wanna roll out one side a little bit thicker than the other. Because when you have a mug or a cup or, you know, something with a handle on it, you'll notice that it's thicker at the top and thinner at the bottom. So that's pretty much what we want to do with this guy. So I'm gonna just get it rolling out first, and then I'm gonna kind of make an assessment. I think I'm gonna make this side a little bit skinnier. And you wanna make sure like it's a nice gradual progression. So with the handle, you're gonna wanna set it up on the table. It's gonna kind of look like a candy cane. And you're gonna wanna decide, how is this going to look on my teapot? I'm gonna put the lid on there just so you guys can see. Obviously, this would be gigantic. I'm gonna keep the thicker side up here. And what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna cut these straight up and down, all right? That's gonna fit the teapot the best. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make a cut here. And I'm gonna follow through and I'm gonna make one right here. Because I did that, I now have 2 diagonals, and that will attach directly on to the teapot, nice and even. I still think that that is too big. I'm gonna take off a little bit from the bottom. Same thing, cutting right up and down. Kind of line it up and line it up. Make it just a little smaller, then I think it'll be good. You want to really play around with the balance of it. Super important. Now with these, you're going to really want to slip and score them on, smooth them in. You might need a little bit extra to go ahead and do that. Now once I set my handle in place, I want it to line up with my spout. I also want to make sure though that it lines up nice and straight with itself. So you don't want it to be like all curvy and wonky. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to make little marks on the sides where I want to put my handle so that I know that's where I'm going to line it up. And then I'm going to make some little score marks there and put some slip on. With your handles, don't be afraid to put too much slip because this is, what's going to be holding up your form. So I'm going to bring this from the bottom and I'm going to line it up to my top. And you're really going to want to kind of hold it in place while it's setting. And you could play around with the shape if you want to. Now, some people will just let it set like that. In order to get like a little bit stronger of a bond, you could take little pieces of clay once the slip is dry and smooth around it. I wouldn't so much smooth in what you have already because it's just going to make it look really thin through here. And it's going to kind of lose the integrity of your handle. But just make sure it's a little bit so it's not taking away too much from your design. So there we go. We got a lid, we got a handle, we got a spout. And I'm going to continue smoothing this. The last thing, the very last thing that was in my sketch for this one was to add on little feet. So that's what I'm gonna do today. Tomorrow's probably gonna be like a studio day, but I'll play my video from Fourth Block for you guys too. So to make feet, they could be any shape. I think I'm gonna have mine, I think I'm gonna start them rounded and then kind of flare it out like that. So the feet will have a little bit, they add a little bit extra to the teapot. I'm gonna make these almost like little shoes. So I'm just taking like a ball of clay and I am flipping it up like that. But you guys can make any shape you want to. The one thing is you want to make sure that they're even. And I'm pulling this up so I could attach it nice and easy. Let me get all my scraps together so they don't dry out. So this is one type of teapot. Like I said, I have two others I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over the side handle for pouring, and I'll have that uploaded for you guys. And, oh, did I just smush my feet? Oh my goodness. That's what happens when you get talking. So I have the two different lids, I have the two different handles uploaded tonight. I'm gonna kind of like see, is that what I want? I think that's a little too big. So I'm gonna thin these out. And I encourage you guys to, you know, get creative with these. Some of them are gonna be like really perfect smooth. Some of you guys might have a little bit more of a design to it, and either are totally fine. You guys could do 4. I'm gonna do 3 for this one. And I think it just makes it look a little fancier. You could also do like a little ring on the bottom. That could be cute too. But I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna line these up and just smooth them in. So pretty much they're just becoming part of the bottom. Then we'll tap it out, we'll make sure that they are all even. So I'm gonna put one on each side of the spout and then one towards the back. add on my last one. And do you guys have to do feet? No, you don't have to. And these were rather quickly attached feet, but that's okay. I would go in, I would adjust them a little bit, but I think you guys can kind of tell, you know, it just kind of adds a little bit more to it. And then you have this, and it has like a lot of character now. So, you know, we could play around with it. I'm gonna smoothen these feet a little bit better, but I just kind of wanted to show you how just like the, you know, the lid you choose, and if you decide to do feet, the type of handle really brings everything together. So this was my sketch for this little guy here. Play around with things. And yeah, I don't know. I like this one. I really do. And I will do the 2 more later.